All right, guys, thank you for joining me again on another day here on PA Farms. I did mention this in a previous video, but I wanted to do a video just on this Farmall Super C 1952. If you'll remember, I had antifreeze in the engine oil, and I was trying to figure out what went wrong, what happened. Brief history again, it was completely overhauled. Well, it was an in-frame overhaul in 2001, and the head was cracked back then. We put a used head on, and the rest is kind of just redundant. But I had antifreeze in this engine oil, and I couldn't figure out why, because I hadn't run it that often, and I really can't figure out for the life of me what happened with it. All I did basically was change the engine oil in this engine, and since I've changed it, I have run this thing, I have driven it around, I've gotten it hot, I've gotten the temperature gauge up, I've been just starting it every so often, every couple days, just constantly trying to run it to see if it's going to do it again. Like I say, it all started when I had a buddy of mine who's a mechanic said on these older engines that the O-rings in the cold tend to get real hard, and they don't seal, and then when it warms up they start to seal again. I don't know, that was what he had told me. In my 10 years I've never heard anything like that. Usually it was an issue like a head gasket, cracked head, bad O-ring. So I figured it's worth a try. It's the cheapest option, it's the cheapest route to go as far as diagnosing it, is to just change the engine oil. So that's what I did, and we got all that antifreeze and engine oil out of here, and put new oil in. And after all that running, and I have run it more now in the past, I want to say since I made the video, over the course of the month, I've run it more now probably than I've run it all year, the previous year. So you'd think if the problem was the head gasket, or one of the O-rings isn't sealed, any number of things, if it froze, all those things, you would think that it would all of a sudden be milky again. And I apologize, it's very windy today again. So, like I say, I don't know what else to do, and I don't think there's anything else that has to be done at this point. That's not to say there isn't an issue on this tractor. There still could be an issue somewhere, and still could show up. But now, I understand that your water is going to be at the bottom, and these plugs here are near the top, but you'll remember from my other video, it was milky all the way, all the oil was milky. So that there is just engine oil. I don't see any antifreeze, I don't see any water or issues. It's real clean, nice clean engine oil. So I don't really know. I don't know what happened, I don't know why it happened. A lot of people had commented, they said it could have been condensation possibly. Now, I don't know, I guess it's a possibility. This building, the condensation on equipment in this building is terrible. It's an uninsulated building with a concrete floor, and where the farm is, I'm kind of down in a hollow, so it's real warm and cold and hot. And anyway, you've seen my past videos where it's just a sheet of water all over everything. So I don't know, it's weird. So at this point, I think it's safe to say I'm just gonna let it right the way it is before I start spending too much money at it or too much time for the sake of an oil change. Now, like I say, I've been running this like crazy, and haven't had it get milky again, so I'm not really sure what happened. The only other thing I could have done possibly is saved some. I still have some of I still could do that. I still have some of the oil that I drained out of this that was milky, and I guess I could have an oil analysis done just to see if there was if it is antifreeze or just water. With those oil analysis tests, they can pinpoint quite a few things, and they're not that very expensive. So I don't know, we'll see. It's kind of a deal where it's just going to be under observation now from this point on. I don't want to say I got lucky with it, because like I say, we still could have an issue, but at this point I think we're going to hold off doing anything to it. Just keep an eye on it, make sure we don't have any issues. But that oil is clean in the engine. Yeah, I meant to say, your water's going to be on the bottom of the oil pan, and I checked it at the top here. I did crack the plug and check, and there was no, it was just oil. So it is kind of what it is, I guess. All right, and the other thing I want to update you guys on, I know you've been, some of you have been commenting back and forth with me on this Farmall 560, the spin-on oil filter kit that I was attempting to install on this tractor. If you go back through my videos, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I did a video on the Farmall 560 spin-on oil filter kit, and then I did a follow-up video as to why I was going to send it back and why I didn't like it. It was called, I think it was Tractor Parts Issues, and I think the thumbnail said what happens sometimes. I decided, even though I finally got the right filter number that would go on here, I would have to buy the filter, even though the kit supplies you with one, to get the right one. Like I say, I got the wrong filter the second time around. Anyway, the long story short, I sent it back, and I bought a new cartridge filter for this because I had it on and off so many times, and we put a new filter on here. So this is a brand new filter on this old canister. We're going to keep this original. We're going to keep it right the way it is. There's a couple things I just didn't like about that spin-on oil filter kit. Not only not being able to get the right filter, but the other problem was the threaded nut that goes in your adapter. It had no way to keep it in the threads, and if it wanted to unthread itself, it could basically work its way all the way down in your engine. They needed to have like a washer or some type of stop on the top of that adapter, so you don't have an engine catastrophe here. That was one thing I didn't like. Some people had said to Loctite it. I could see doing that too, but there's just too many things I didn't like about it. So we went back to the old way. We're going to keep it the old way and run it like this. So just as an FYI to anybody that might have seen my videos and thought it was a good idea to order one, I know there were a couple people that were on the fence about it. I did call Steiner when I had returned it, or they called me, and they had said that they didn't know that this filter they sent me, the second one, was wrong, and they sent some kits out with the wrong filter. So there are people that are going to get the wrong filter for that spin-on kit. So just a heads up, if anybody did decide to go with this kit, check the filter, and they should know about the problem now. So yeah, it is what it is. So again, like I say, I don't recommend things unless I'm willing to stand behind them and say they work for me, they're great. At this point with that kit, I don't recommend getting it. It's a good idea. I think it needs some work yet. I know there's a lot of people that have them. The other thing I didn't like was how small the filter was. You have a big diesel engine, and it was a tiny filter like an automotive, like you'd have in a car, like a 4-cylinder car. This is a 282 cubic inch diesel engine. The oil gets dirty. I mean, to have a tiny filter like that, it's less filtering capacity than this cartridge in here. So basically all you're doing is changing things for convenience for yourself with the spin-on. Now granted, you might be able to, like I said, I'm talking back and forth with a guy, and he did find the right international filter that fits, and it's a little bit taller. So just didn't work for me, guys, and I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time messing around with it. For $100, excuse me, it's worth saving. So I'll get my $100 back and use it somewhere where it's more of a necessity. More of a necessity, I guess you could say. So again, it's gone. I sent it back. My 560 is gonna stay original with the oil filter. So we tried. So those are two updates I know people have been waiting on. So I hope this answered some questions. If anybody has any questions, feel free to comment. I'll try to answer them. As far as suggestions, like I say, that the oil filter sent back, so I'm not really looking for any other suggestions. It's done. I tried. And like I say, the Farmall C, we're just gonna keep an eye on it. But anytime you don't have to pull it all apart and rebuild it again, this is not really necessary. It's a bonus for me anyway. So, all right.